Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Kajal Jindal from University of Delhi. Today we are going to discuss about the module addition of two angular momenta and Clebsch-Gordon coefficients from paper Quantum Mechanics. So students, let us see what we are going to learn in this module. In this module, we will come to know the vector addition of the two independent angular momenta. We will learn the importance of total angular momentum considering the role of central and non-central potentials. We will learn the possibility of the two possible representations called uncoupled and coupled representations. We will learn how these representations are related to what are called the Clebsch-Gordon coefficients. In this module, we study the coupling of two independent angular momentum operators which commute with each other. In the preceding module, we learned that if operator J1 and operator J2 are the two angular momentum operators, then there exist the eigenstates which are respectively the simultaneous eigenstates of operators J1 and J2. Here, we shall learn that there are two possible representations in which the eigenstates of the individual angular momentum operators can be coupled. One is the obvious uncoupled representation, which is obtained by just taking the direct product of the two eigenstates. These states are obviously the simultaneous eigenstates of operator J1 and J2. The second more useful representation is obtained when the two angular momentum operators, operator J1 and J2, are vectorially added to get the total angular momentum J, and we look for the representation in which the coupled state is the simultaneous eigenstate of operator J1 and J2. We shall first discuss in detail by considering the example of two particle system with central and non-central potentials. Also, the importance of total angular momentum, which makes it necessary to introduce the coupled representation. We shall then describe how the coupled states are related to the how the uncoupled states are related to the coupled states by what are called the Clebsch-Gordon coefficients. We will begin with the angular momentum algebra, where we will first learn the addition of angular momentum. Let there be two independent angular momentum operators, J1 and J2, which commute with each other. That is, the commutator of J1 and J2 is equal to 0. These angular momenta may refer to different particles or two independent systems, or J1 may be the orbital angular momentum L and J2 may be the spin S of the same particle. Let ket J1 M1 be a normalized simultaneous eigenstate of operator J1 square and operator J1z, so that operator J1 square acting on ket J1 M1 is equal to h cut square J1 into J1 plus 1 ket J1 M1, and operator J1Z acting on ket J1 M1 is equal to M1 h cut ket J1 M1. Similarly, let ket J2 M2 be a normalized simultaneous eigenstate of operator J2 square and operator J2z. Then operator J2 square acting on ket J2 M2 is equal to h cut square J2 into J2 plus 1 ket J2 M2, and operator J2z ket J2 M2 is equal to M2 h cut ket J2 M2. A normalized simultaneous eigenstate of operator J1 square, operator J2 square, J1z and J2z with eigenvalues given by h cut square J1 into J1 plus 1, h cut square J2 into J2 plus 1, M1 h cut and M2 h cut respectively is obtained by taking the direct product of the states J1 M1 and J2 M2 That is, ket J1, J2, M1, M2 is equal to ket J1, M1 into ket J2, M2. However, in many situations of physical interest, we deal with systems whose Hamiltonian H is invariant under rotations, and therefore they commute with the total angular momentum J, which is obtained by the addition of two angular momentum operators J1 and J2. Before we proceed further, let us examine the importance of total angular momentum, which makes it so important to introduce the coupled representation. Next, we discuss the importance of total angular momentum. In order to appreciate the role of total angular momentum, let us begin by considering a system of two non-interacting particles whose Hamiltonian is simply given in the representation by operator H0 equals operator H1 plus operator H2, where operator H1 is equal to minus h cut square by 2 mu 1 operator del 1 square plus operator v of function v, which is a function of position vector r1. And similarly, Hamiltonian operator H2 is equal to minus h cut square by 2 mu 2 del 2 square plus operator v of position vector r2, where mu1 and mu2 are the masses of the two particles and v of r is the central potential to which each of them are subject. In such a case, we know that the three components of the angular operator L1 of particle 1 commute with Hamiltonian operator H1, that is, commutator of operator L1 with operator H1 is equal to 0. Also, these momentum components of operator L1 commute with operator H2, with the commutator of operator L1 with operator H2 is equal to 0. In other words, the three components of operator L1 are constants of motion. Following same arguments, it follows that the three components of operator L2 are also constants of motion. We next move on to study a two-particle system with central potential. Now we assume that the two particles interact and the corresponding potential energy V, a function of modulus of operator R1 minus R2, depends only on the distance between them. That is, modulus of R1 minus R2 is equal to square root of x1 minus x2 whole square plus y1 minus y2 whole square plus z1 minus z2 whole square. Thus, the Hamiltonian of the system is now Hamiltonian H is equal to Hamiltonian operator H1 plus operator H2 plus the potential energy operator V, a function of R1 minus R2, where operator H1 and operator H2 are as defined in equation 6. According to equation 7 and 8, the commutator of operator L1 with operator H reduces to commutator of L1 with H is equal to commutator of operator L1 with the potential energy operator V, which is a function of R1 minus R2. When this is written explicitly for the component, say operator L1Z, it appears as commutator of operator L1Z with Hamiltonian is equal to the commutator of operator L1Z with the potential energy operator V, which is a function of modulus of R1 minus R2. This is equal to minus iota h cut into within the brackets x1 into del V by del y1, or is equal to y1 into del V by del x1. The expression defined by equation 12 is generally not zero. The angular momentum operator L1 is no longer a constant of motion. However, if we define the total angular momentum vector operator L, that is, operator L is equal to operator L1 plus operator L2, we get an operator whose three components are constants of the motion. For example, the commutator of operator Lz with Hamiltonian operator H is equal to the commutator of operator L1z plus operator L2z with the Hamiltonian operator H. According to equation 12, the commutator is given by commutator of operator Lz with Hamiltonian operator H is equal to commutator of operator L1z plus L2z with the Hamiltonian operator H and is equal to minus iota H cut into within the brackets x1 into del v by del y1 minus y1 into del v by del x1 plus x2 into del v by del y2 minus y2 into del v by del x2. Since v depends only on modulus r1 minus r2, so we have del v by del x1 is equal to v prime into del of modulus r1 minus r2 by del x1. This is equal to v prime x1 minus x2 divided by modulus of r1 minus r2. Similarly, del v by del x2 is equal to v prime into del of modulus r1 minus r2 divided by del x2, which is equal to v prime into x2 minus x1 divided by modulus of r1 minus r2. Here, v prime is the derivative of r. Similar expressions for other derivatives can be written. Substituting this into equation 15, we would have the commutator of operator Lz with Hamiltonian operator H is equal to minus iota H cut into v prime divided by modulus of r1 minus r2 into within the brackets x1 into y1 minus y2 minus y1 into x1 minus x2 plus x2 into y2 minus y1 minus y2 into x2 minus x1 brackets close and is equal to 0. It is thus clear that in a system of interacting particles, only total angular momentum L is the constant of motion. Next, we discuss the interaction with spin orbit term. In the above discussion, we have assumed that the particles have no intrinsic spin. Let us consider an example of a single particle with spin. Suppose this particle is for simplicity moving in a central potential. In such a situation, we have seen that the three components of orbital angular momentum commute with the Hamiltonian. In addition, since the three components of spin commute with the orbital observables, these spin components are also constants of motion. But we shall come across the situations when the potential is non-central. A Hamiltonian can, for instance, have a term corresponding to the spin-orbit coupling term of the form Hamiltonian SO operator is equal to xi of r into operator L dot operator S, where xi of r is some known function of r. When such a term is taken into account, the orbital angular momentum vector operator and the spin vector no longer commute with the Hamiltonian. For example, the commutator of operator Lz with operator HSO is equal to xi of r into the commutator of operator Lz with operator Lx Sx plus operator Ly Sy plus operator Lz Sc. And similarly, the commutator of operator Sz with Hamiltonian operator spin orbit Hamiltonian operator HSO is equal to xi of r into the commutator of operator Sz with operator Lx Sx plus Ly Sy plus Lz Sc, which equals xi of r into within the brackets iota h cut into operator Ly operator Sx minus iota h cut operator Lx operator Sy brackets close, which can be simplified to obtain xi of r into iota h cut operator Lx operator Sy minus iota h cut operator Ly operator Sx. However, if we have operator J is equal to operator L plus operator S, the three components of operator J are then constants of the motion, for we can see from equation 19 and 20 that commutator of operator Jz with the Hamiltonian operator related to spin-orbit coupling is equal to operator Lz plus operator Sz, commutator of operator Lz plus operator Sz with Hamiltonian operator So, which is equal to 0. Such a relation is also true for other components of operator J. From the above discussion, we can see that in situations where we have two angular momenta, here operator L and operator S, but henceforth we shall call them as operator J1 and J2, which commute, are in general not constants of the motion. In such cases, we look for the eigenstates of operator H, which are simultaneous eigenstates of operator J square and operator Jz. Now, the total angular momentum operator J of the system is the vector sum of two commuting angular momenta J1 and J2, as can be seen in the figure. Now we move towards the vector addition of two angular momenta, where operator J is equal to the sum of operator J1 plus operator J2. The operator J square, which is J square, will be equal to the square of operator J1 plus operator J2, which is equal to operator J1 square plus operator J2 square plus 2 times operator J1 dot J2. This is equal to J1 square plus J2 square plus 2 times J1x into operator J2x plus 2 times operator J1y or into operator J2y plus 2 times operator J1z into operator J2z. Since all the components of J1 commute with all those of J2, and also the commutator of operator J1 square with J1 is equal to commutator of operator J2 square with J2 is equal to 0, it follows that J square commutes with operator J1 square and operator J2 square. However, because operator J1z does not commute with operator J1x or operator J1y, we find that operator J square does not commute with operator J1z for the same reason for which operator J square does not commute with operator J2z. As a result, the simultaneous eigenstates of operator J square and operator Jz are the eigenstates of operator J1 square and operator J2 square, but not in general of operator J1z and operator J2z. We next proceed towards Clebsch-Gordon coefficients. Thus, there are two distinct descriptions of the system. First, in terms of the eigenstates of operator J1 square, J2 square, J1z and J2z as stated above, and second, in terms of the eigenstates of operator J1 square, operator J2 square, operator J square and Jz. Let us denote the basis vector in the case 2 by ket J1 J2 Jm or sometimes by ket Jm. We then have operator J1 square acting on ket J1 J2 Jm is equal to h cut square into J1 plus 1 into ket J1 J2 Jm. Similarly, operator J2 square acting on ket J1 J2 Jm is equal to h cut square J2 into J2 plus 1 into ket J1 J2 Jm. So, operator J square acting on ket J1 J2 Jm is equal to h cut square into J plus 1 into ket J1 J2 Jm, and operator Jz acting on ket J1 J2 Jm is equal to h cut times m acting on ket J1 J2 Jm. This representation is called the coupled representation. Since the two representations, which are ket J1 J2 Jm and ket J1 J2 M1 M2, are simply different orthonormal bases in the same Hilbert space, so they are related by a unitary transformation. That is, ket J1 J2 Jm is equal to ket Jm, which is equal to summation over M1 M2. Within the summation, the scalar product of J1 J2 M1 M2 with Jm into ket J1 M1 and ket J2 M2, as there are twice of J1 plus 1 different values of M1, and for a given value of M2 there are 2 J2 plus 1 different values of M2. The dimensionality of the representation is given by 2j plus 1 into 2j2 plus 1. The summation in equation 26 must be performed over M1 and M2 since J1 and J2 are assumed to have fixed values. The coefficient described by the scalar product of J1, J2, M1, M2 with Jm, which depend on the 6 angular momentum quantum numbers, are called Clebsch-Gordon or vector addition coefficients. Various symbols and names are used for it. We shall adopt the symbol CJ1M1, J2M2, Jm and call it the Clebsch-Gordon or C coefficients. In the abbreviated form, we write equation 26 as ket Jm is equal to summation over M1 M2, Cj1 M1, J2 M2, Jm, ket J1 M1, ket J2 M2. This equation may be regarded as the defining equation for the C coefficients. In the next module, we shall discuss the selection rules which give us non-zero values of C coefficients for certain allowed values of J and M. So students, let us now summarize what we have learned in this module. In this module, we have studied the vector addition of two independent angular momenta. We have learned the importance of total angular momentum considering the role of central and non-central potentials. We have learned the possibility of the two possible representations called uncoupled and coupled representations. Also, we have learned how these representations are related to what are called the Clebsch-Gordon coefficients. Thank you, students.